Welcome to the FCICA Product Promotional Webinar Series. We are pleased to have Jim Muggleton from Uzin with us today. Welcome, Jim.
Thank you, Kelly. Thank you very much for the introduction. Welcome to everybody looking in on today's webinar, even those that are going to watch this in the recorded mode thereafter. Thank you again, Kelly, for mentioning there about the handouts for all things Uzin as we cycle through this particular product webinar. My name is Jim Muggleton, and I'm the product manager for Uzin for North America. Uzin is, as you see on the screen in front of you there, folks, one of three brands beneath our holding company title of U-Floor Systems. Uzin, for those unfamiliar to the call today, Uzin is all things substrate preparation, allied to the preparation of floors by floor installer in advance of multiple floor finish coverings. The Pullman brand is all products allied to the wood floor installer, which also encompasses a number of tool ranges, self-leveling product, and wood sealers and coatings and adhesives. And then we have the third brand to the bottom right-hand corner there for Wolf Tools, all things allied to the preparation of substrates in advance of receiving floor covering, and in fact a number of flooring tools for the installer for use over the final finished floor covering products. For installation, for example, of sheet vinyl coverings, LVP, LVT, a number of hand tools available for that for the Wolf Tools range. Today in particular, we are going to focus on the brand Uzin. About that, so Uzin, founded since 1911 in the European market. We actually started off as a distribution company in Vienna, Austria, by our founder, George Utz. Amongst the many things that we started to work on in manufacturing process back in those early days, amongst the many mixed ingredients was actually shoe polishes, would you believe? To date, 1911, we're in our 106th year. We've been here in the United States since 2006. So we have a tremendous market tenure, particularly for the European range. And in fact, I would like to think and hope that a good many of you on this phone webinar today are now becoming far more familiar with the Uzin brand. The title of today's webinar is The Level Plus Effect, allied to Uzin. The Level Plus Effect is unique technology that is allied solely to the brand Uzin. Cycling through the webinar slides today, just to give you guys a synopsis of what we will be covering. Initially, there will be an introduction to the Level Plus Effect. We will talk about the development, the benefits when using those products that are inherent to the Level Plus Effect. I'll cycle through a quick case study. We'll go for a summary, and then we'll close out on the keyword that is allied to all things U-Floor Systems, not just Uzin. We are a systems-driven company, and our key primary word is innovation, bringing innovative materials to market. In particular, focusing on today's webinar, the innovation surrounds the three words to the bottom right-hand corner of the screen, the Level Plus Effect. What it is, what it does, and ultimately how it's going to, our end goal, make the installer more profitable. You can see two images on the screen there in front of you, folks. You can see to the left-hand image, we have a kitchen, and we have a wet floor finish. On the right-hand image, we have the same kitchen shot, focusing more on the floor substrate itself, with a liquid self-leveler that has been applied there. One of the products I will mention in a moment or two's time that has the qualities of the Level Plus Effect is actually drying In that image, we can see the material is actually dried into the small vestibule for the kitchen in front of the oven there, and it's slowly starting to draw back in that matte finish across the product photograph. What you'll notice in particular is the clean, crisp lines in reflection of the window and the lights. And largely when we get that crisp, clean reflection back in the surface of a self-leveling product, we can determine that it has truly got a leveling property, a leveling effect. The level plus effect is in 3 of the products that we currently sell and supply within the United States. 2 of those products, NC 170 for the blue and white bag, and then 172 Broncos colors. We actually manufacture both of those products, those cement-based materials, out of our factory plant facility on the East Coast. East Coast of the United States in Dover, Delaware. The 110 bag, NC 110 product, is a gypsum-based material that we currently bring in from our German manufacturing facility. Every one of those 3 products has the level plus effect quality in their material. Making that apparent, some of you may or may not have actually seen when using the product the little orange oval to the top of the bags that calls out the level plus effect. In particular, many of you may well have thought before now, I'd like a greater explanation as to what that is, what it does. Hence the webinar today. To pay proper service to all of our guys and girls in our research and development side for U-Floor systems, in particular for Uzin, in just one webinar slide, really doesn't do it service whatsoever. We have a unique team of research, innovation, testing, production, customer sales, customer support, having all of those relevant parties involved in the production of not just those materials that are inherent to the level plus effect, but all materials that we produce. Our liquid produced products, our primers, our adhesives, and then our cement and gypsum-based materials. The research and development is critical, not only for its analysis, but also in the materials that we produce. We look to provide the best possible products for the flooring professional. Ultimately, I mentioned it before there, folks, about making the installer, the user of the materials, the companies that are actually choosing to work with us and use the products that we supply and manufacture for the benefit of their business, to ultimately make those guys and girls more profitable. That is our unique aim, our goal. The level plus effect does harness unique materials technology. Everything that we produce for Uzin as systems is innovative. That innovation is not 9 to 5, Monday to Friday. That innovation is 24/7, 365 days of a calendar year. It's continual. We are continually looking to develop and obviously work with our customers. Customer base is key to Uzin, the brand Uzin, as well as U-Floor systems in all facets. For Pullman, Wolf, our drivers are our customers. Listening to the customer's needs is obviously paramount. The wants of he or she in the materials that we manufacture is our end goal. Ultimately, what is he or she choosing to use in their business practice on day to day? What do they like about those materials? What do they wish they could change about those materials? In developing the level plus effect, we did just that. We asked our customers what they wanted. Having open forums like we see on the left-hand image on the screen in front of you, posing the questions to the customers as to what would you like to ultimately change about the materials, Uzin or other, that you are currently using. What do you wish that you could change? What additions, what features, what inherent benefits attached to those features would you like to see in the materials supplied by the brand Uzin? We look to answer those questions in the production of materials that we then choose to move forward with. In producing the materials, the shot on the right-hand side of the screen there is actually an interior view of a part section of our distribution, a manufacturing facility that we have on the East Coast in Dover, Delaware. From there, we distribute out to various partners for Uzin of the products that you see lined up on the rack pallets in the background there. I'd like to suggest that the building itself looked as free of pallet space as it does in the image there at the moment, but we are pressed for space. It's growing exponentially. So in gathering the suggestions offered by our customers, in the development of the technology allied to the Uzin Level Plus effect, the materials qualities, what he or she would ultimately like to see, among the many suggestions offered were increased flow property, extending the working times, being able to actually work the material, tool into the material, walk into the material with raised spikes or cleats without leaving any sort of indentation or marks thereafter. Extending the working times, but then also accelerating drying times. We offer one, it's got to have the other. Having a uniform surface appearance, being truly smooth, flat, and level. All too often, and I'm sure everybody on this call today has seen various different manufacturers' materials with those two key words, self and leveling. I challenge in many cases for manufacturers of such materials where they use those words of self and leveling. Are those products truly a true to word self-leveler? We feel that all Uzin self-levelers, in particular those with the Level Plus effect, have superior smooth, flat, and level properties. It's just inherent in the materials that we manufacture. Ultimately, at the end of the day, probably one of the driving items, key items that we heard from the field, from our customer base, was a reduction in the need for preparation, particularly in a floor's surface, a substrate installed self-leveler's finished cured surface prior to it receiving, say, a sealer or a coating or an adhesive base over the top of it. That reduction in the need to actually machine or tool over the surface in advance of, say, adhesive application was paramount. So we set to work. We put together the key parameters, gathering those answers back from our customer base, from questions asked, questions raised. Where do we begin? Well, we begin with putting together the package of agreed ingredients for the materials themselves. What raw mix of materials are we going to put together to offer all of the items that we mentioned previously? Increased flow property, to be able to extend the working times of the materials, accelerate dry times, that uniform appearance, and ultimately the technology to provide a virtually cover-ready floor finish. So we gather the ingredients, we work through the necessary testing stage of any Uzin material prior to it going to market. Extensive testing, in-house, in the field, gathering the customer feedback. If something doesn't hit the tick box, we'll bring it back to base and we start over. Testing for examples of compressive strength in a material, the absorbency, the adhesion of qualities of a self-leveling product, its flow, critical. Will it truly self-level? And ultimately, what will be the final surface appearance? Gathering ingredients, doing the testing items there as well, and ultimately honouring all things green principle allied to Uzin, allied to U-Floor systems, environmental consciousness, and being aware of the environmental aspects and the impacts of a material is paramount to Uzin. Two images in front of you for image A and image B. We discussed briefly the item of flow properties to a material. More often than not, for my previous life of actually having my own distribution company, one of the key things that I was always interested to hear from a manufacturer of substrate materials was, you mentioned about the flow on a material. Please let me try this for myself and determine if it indeed does have true characteristics of flow properties that I am looking for. Will the material set down out of the pail onto the floor? Is it just going to sit there, or is it truly going to start to move? Is it going to flow? All Uzin materials, in particular those for the level plus effect, for all the self-levelers that we produce, gypsum and cement, all of our materials have extreme high flow properties. What this ultimately means, as per image B, is an easier tooling of the materials over the substrate, far easier placement of products, and knowing that the material will take less tooling to work into position. All Uzin self-levelers, including those inherent with the level plus effect quality, are suitable to be pumped applied. All Uzin self-levelers can be positioned at a true 1/8, 3 millimeters depth across the floor finish. That means that we can achieve coverage anywhere between 54 to 60 square feet per 50-pound bag. That's an incredible offering to a flooring contractor who more often than not is looking to meet the requirements, obviously, of the final finished floor covering manufacturer, whom in many cases is actually requiring a minimum of 1/8 over the substrate, often or not for absorbency of the adhesives that will follow thereafter. Having products that will truly flow, that can be barrel mixed, that can be pump applied, is really looking to cover all bases for each individual option of each individual flooring installer. Some may choose to barrel mix apply, some may choose to pump apply the materials into place. We've got an offering for both sides. The overwatering of self-leveling materials, even hand prep products, is far too often, sadly, commonplace both in the United States and the European market. Having the stability of a water range to all Uzin self-levelers and hand prep products in our patch materials, we have a water range. We have the ability now for the he or she physically applying these materials on a daily basis to set measure lines, to be able to work to a water range where they can say, I have one line, that there is my base water range. The other is the top of the water range. As long as I now enter water into that pail and set it between those two lines, I'm covered. I'm safe. I have a stability in the product to know that it is going to work as per all technical data supplied on Uzin product data sheets and work within those guidelines. Having a water range to Uzin products, particularly those with a level plus effect, is absolutely paramount. We want to give our customers, our installers, the option to be able to draw back the water amount, cold day East Coast, or in fact be able to add additional water within the water range, say for example, warm day West Coast. We can tailor the material to still work within its working characteristics and be ultimately safe in application of those products. A safe, suitably prepared sample of self-leveler is shown in image A. It's monolithic in its color, it's uniform, there's no discernible bands running throughout the image in sample A. In sample B, sadly, this is all too often what we find with materials placed by he or she who chooses not to read set instruction on products, who may well choose to work outside of that water range, in this case choosing to go above and beyond the specified water range and overwater the product. So what we see in image B in particular is a separation of the raw materials themselves composed within the structure of the self-leveling compound, and we see ultimately a weak layer to the top surface finish of the sample shown in image B. In short, to now apply adhesive and a finished goods product over the top of it, say for example sheet vinyl goods, would be a complete negative. Ultimately, we would be looking at a suggested failure. We would have a weak substrate. We would have the possibility of a delamination of floor finish from the top of the substrate. In short, it's not what anybody wants to see. In particular, the flooring installer, in particular, the business or the property owner that has had that material applied within their building. Evaluation of peel strength, bond strength, effectively for the adhesion of the products that are going to follow next over the top surface of those products, with and without the level plus effect, is critical. Making sure that we do our analysis in-house, first of all. Uzin sells adhesives. We've got to qualify and make sure that we have suitable adhesion over the top of the products that we produce. Level plus effect products in particular have got tremendous absorbency. Despite their appearance in particular of having extremely fine particles that make up the product themselves, the cured finish for application of adhesive thereafter is extremely absorbent. Doing our tests, I say, a due diligence in-house first of all, ensuring that we have adequate adhesion. When can we choose to start installing the floor finishes? At what particular time? Evaluation therein is critical. I just mentioned absorbency. Apply a floor finish at too early a stage over the top of a adhesive that hasn't been allowed to suitably flash, we will more often than not see what we see in image A on the left-hand side of the screen. The formulation of bubbles, in this case underneath the circumstance of a sheet vinyl having been applied. In working with the level plus effect and drawing out our own circumstance as to when we can suitably say to the customer, yes, we can start to install the floor covering at this particular set time for this particular type of floor covering, we look to honour that with a level plus effect as well as all Uzin self-levelers and hand prep products. What we ultimately want to see, folks, as I'm sure you'll all agree, is more of image B, hopefully none of image A. smoothness of a material. More often than not, the requirements in the field will be, well, does it need to be flat and level? Does it need to be flat and smooth? With the Uzin Level Plus effect, we look to really honour all three: flat, smooth, and level. That surface smoothness is becoming apparent, particularly in image B. As you can see, again, we mentioned in the first opening slides, image slides, we saw that reflection, that nice crispness. We can see that perfect vertical window frame reflected back in the surface finish of the curing Uzin self-leveler, in this case a product called NC170 self-leveling compound. Having that smooth to touch, absorbent, free-flowing, ultimately hard PSI, high PSI compressor strength material is apparent in all three of the Uzin Level Plus effect materials sold here within the United States. Surface smoothness, in particular for the installation of particularly high light reflective floor finishes that may be installed thereafter by that thin surface finish floor covering goods, is critical. Having the option now with Uzin self-levelers to provide materials that are truly self-leveling, virtually cover-ready, means that we now don't have to start thinking about the inherent, often, far too often or not, with other perceived materials, having to now start working patch over the top surface of the supplied self-leveling product. Uzin self-levelers are virtually cover-ready. Set it down into place, let it cure, let it dry, open the pail of adhesive, spread it on the floor, start installing the floor covering. The need to not necessarily have to start to mechanically prepare the surface of an applied Uzin self-leveler, in particular those with the Level Plus effect, is paramount in our offering to the customer. You recall, as we showed in the slide earlier, folks, we mentioned about the reduced preparation need. We look to offer that with the self-leveling technology that we provide for Uzin. Calling out additional inherent benefits with the Uzin Level Plus effect, you can see them there in front of you. Reduced preparation time, that extremely smooth flat surface, the outstanding flow, the tremendous absorptive qualities of the materials themselves. Even though we have extreme excellent absorbency with Uzin self-levelers, in particular those with a Level Plus effect, what that does not mean is a definite drawing through of the adhesive that is applied thereafter. By that, your adhesive is actually going to travel further over the surface of a Uzin Level Plus effect self-leveling compound. You'll actually get an additional square foot yield over the top of a Level Plus effect qualified self-leveling compound. That uniform surface appearance, we talked about the flat, the flatness, the smoothness, ultimately the true leveling qualities of the materials themselves. Even those materials that are placed down at just an eighth, we can look to honor those three key characteristics. And of course, ultimately, time is money. Having the savings back for the installer, for the business owner, for the customer, the end user, he or she that is going to be occupying that building, that reduced need for additional time in preparation is absolutely paramount, both in advance of materials application and in particular prior to adhesive being applied over the top of the surface of those products that have the Level Plus effect qualities. To talk you through a brief case study scenario, we had a customer, a user of Uzin materials, who very kindly accepted a little bit of a challenge from ourselves. Myself and my colleague, we were fortunate enough to travel out to a job site, in this particular case study, a hospital on the West Coast. And that customer actually allowed us to show the true inherent benefits of choosing to use an Uzin self-leveling compound that can be applied at a true eighth without having to go through the time-consumptive, high-end, critical surface appearance must be absolutely spot-on surface prepared patching of a corridor area. Instead of choosing to patch, the gentleman in particular allowed us to place down Uzin materials, system materials, to produce flat surface finish for the application of a LVP that you see in the far right hand image on the screen. For this, we use several key Uzin materials to answer the call for a system. As you'll see on the far left hand image, we had existing adhesive residue in place after the floor finish, which in this case was a carpet finish, had been removed. The adhesive, the trial marks on the adhesive were scraped down to a stain, a non-three-dimensional pattern on the floor. Over the top of that, then we placed a product called 414 Polyurethane Primer. 414 is a truly exceptional universal material that can actually be used to encapsulate, to cover both water-soluble based adhesives as well as non-water soluble based adhesive residues. Residues, I say, a non-three-dimensional, a stain finish on the floor. So we roller applied a coat of the 414 down the corridor, as is shown in the left-hand image, the far left-hand image. Within just 60 minutes, that surface was set dry. Over the top of that, then, we placed a material which is shown in the bottom of the screen there in the rectangular pail called PE280. PE280 is carbon fiber-based technology. High, dry, fast dry surface primer. That material, again, roller applied, produces a key surface for taking Uzin self-levelers application thereafter up to 1 inch depth. In this case, we placed material down, a product called 172, one of the 3 products I mentioned earlier with the level plus effect. This again is no exception to the rule. This really is, it's innovative technology 101. 172 cement-based material, Portland cement-based technology, was placed down at a true eighth in the corridor. We achieved that true eighth by using the tool that is shown in the bottom left-hand side of your screen there, which is the Uzin self-leveling compound rake. And we are able to pull, in this case, a cement-based leveler at a true eighth over the floor finish. Now this really is exceptional technology with the 172 level plus effect, in that material at an eighth can look to be covered in as little as 60 to 90 minutes at 1/8 on the floor. Receiving foot traffic in as little as 60 minutes thereafter, we were able to allow for access up and down the corridor. You'll see in the far right-hand screen it was pretty critical to get access back in a very short time frame, offering this fast-track system for Uzin materials, because it's actually a labor delivery ward at the end of this particular corridor section. Critical, fast turnaround. The application of the vinyl plank was put down thereafter, and really what I would like you all to focus on, if you would, is the passage of light traveling down the center of the corridor in the far right-hand image. You can see underneath that high light source of the filter light, even with diffusers placed over the lights themselves, you can see that crispness, that evenness, ultimately that smoothness and that leveling property for the materials themselves, it shows 101. Trying to achieve the same circumstances by hand preparing, by putting down a patch product, and then having to put a rotary machine over the top of it, some 2, possibly as many as 3 times, well, time is money. Here we had a fast-track system where we're able to pull self-leveling compound at a true eighth down the length of the corridor in this particular example, sets hard, cured finish. That's the result. That's what we see on the far right-hand side of the screen. Virtually cover-ready technology. Reducing the time and effort of the flooring installer by offering these easily applied, virtually cover-ready substrate solutions. I can't really state it any clearer, folks, than the wording on front of the screen there. It really is. It's a bit of simple math on this one. By saving time, by not having to necessarily spend that time in labor in preparing a substrate, ultimately provides back cost savings, not only to those people on the phone today, but ultimately to the end user, to he or she, the homeowner, the residential homeowner, the commercial business owner, being able to show cost savings at the very top end is paramount. The technology that you've heard mentioned here today, particularly in the level plus effect across the 3 materials for the 2 cement-based materials from 170 and 172, as well as our gypsum material, our NC110, yes, all 3 of those materials have the level plus effect. Will the technology end? Will we call it good now for the next 20 years on the innovative side? Absolutely not at all. Innovation, I mentioned before, is not 9 to 5, Monday to Friday. We are continually working, day in, day out, to improve the quality of the materials that we manufacture, that the materials that we offer our distributor base, our distributor partners, so that they can go to markets, secure in the knowledge that they have the best materials to offer the best features and inherent benefits to their customers, to ultimately provide the best substrate solutions available to them. Selection of folks there shown on the screen in front of you are actually in our European office in the city of Ulm in Germany. We have some 40 guys and girls housed in that particular building day to day in our research and development facility. Whilst we have the level plus effect today, we are striving now for next generation materials, always looking to adapt, continually adapt with our customers, with the flooring industry, with the market itself, to drive forward the technology and the materials that we produce. But it's not just in the materials that we manufacture. It's also in the technology that we provide. How can we ultimately make the estimator, the business owner, the installer, how can we make his or her life far more simplified, far easier in a day-to-day circumstance? For that, one such innovation, recent innovation, is that we now provide our customers with the Uzin app. This is available for iPhone and for Android. Free download that actually now provides our customers with everything at the touch of a button. The product data sheets, the safety data sheets, all items allied to our sustainability, our green, the LEED certifications for the materials there as well. Application videos of the materials, absolutely paramount. Having those application videos available in multiple languages so that he or she from the installation side can fully understand what they have in their hands and how to apply that material correctly on the substrate. Education is paramount, not only for the trainings that we provide in-house and externally to our customers, to our distributor partners, but really starting at a ground point here of offering the app where you'll be able to see those materials that have level plus effect, as well as those where we are working to perhaps bring in, again, inherent benefits of level plus effect to such products in the future. I end today's seminar by saying extreme thanks to everybody that has been able to listen in today, to give me the benefit of time to be able to discuss through, particularly from the standpoint of product management, of all things that we manufacture for Uzin, for the brand Uzin. I welcome questions back, particularly at the end of this seminar. I welcome questions back, particularly one-to-one. If you should choose to email me, if you should choose to contact me directly via the phone, if we get a chance to meet out at industry events there, for example, FCICA, I welcome the opportunity to talk to you one-on-one. My cell phone number is on the screen in front of you there, shown in the middle of the screen at the base. I put that as my primary point of contact, please, for anybody that should have questions allied to either this presentation or for Uzin materials in general. Please reach out to me, ask the questions to me one-on-one. That's ultimately what everybody within the UFloor Systems Corporation gets paid for, is answering those questions and providing solutions. So again, Kelly, thank you for your time. Thank you for the colleagues' times. I think we're ready to hopefully cycle through a few questions.
Okay, Jim. While we're waiting for questions to come in, and again, if you have questions, go ahead and type them in your question pane. You just click on the question pane and type it in and send it to us, and we'll try to get to as many as we have. But again, Jim has provided all of his contact information, especially his cell phone, and you can contact him and get a conversation directly with him. We do have one question that's come in, Jim. Let me read it to you. It says, I am Joe from Myanmar. I tried to download both the App Store and the Play Store, but did not provide for my country. Is there a chance I can get the app from Uzin directly? Oh, okay.
And Kelly, I'm sorry, I just missed where you mentioned that particular person was trying to download the app. Could you just repeat that for me?
Yep, he's from Myanmar. He's from Burma, and he's trying to download the app, and but it's not provided for his country.
Okay, well, we certainly will get that corrected. Kelly, is there an opportunity, please, if you could grab either a contact email for that person, contact telephone number? I can phone that person directly after this webinar and look to get that sorted.
Absolutely, I can provide you with that information. Joe, we'll take care of that for you. All right, great. He said thank you. Okay, while we're waiting for any additional questions that come in, Jim, do you have some common questions that you get asked about either Uzin or the Level Plus effect?
Absolutely, Kelly. Probably one of the most commonplace questions is that, because, as I mentioned throughout the webinar there, I drew on one key point, that was the water range. The water range that is applicable to all Uzin self-levelers and hand-prep patch products. And more often or not, either in the training seminars that we conduct here in Denver, Colorado, or in fact out in the field on the job site with the installers, because we have that exception of actually offering a water range, a point of stability effectively, where you can put the materials down in complete confidence and the knowledge of security that the material is being put down as intended by Uzin. More often than not, when people go to the top end of the water range, a common misconception by many with this, Kelly, is that they've actually put too much water in because the products are so fluid, because they have that tremendous high sort of liquid appearance. That is not the case. It's far too often a misconception where people suggest, I think I may well have put too much water in by going to the top end of the water range. It's a quality to all Uzin self-levelers, no less with those that have the Level Plus effect quality within them, that they are extremely fluid. They're extremely easy to place. They have inherently long working times, open times for the materials. In certain cases, as much as 20 to 40 minutes working time. This is really game-changing technology in that he or she actually applying the material onto the substrate can now, if needs be, walk back over an area where the material has been applied, walk back through the wet material, walk back out of that room area, and have the material actually close back in on itself, heal effectively without leaving any discernible surface mark underneath the fingertips. That's truly exceptional to the materials that we supply, but more often than not, that is a commonly placed question for Uzin materials. If I'm to suggest another, it's largely that so many of our customers will call out and say, okay, I have a specific job requirement where I need to use a certain set product or series of materials to answer the final solution for the customer. And of course, no job is the same. Every job is unique, makes our day-to-day lives enjoyable because it provides such great variety. So being able to tailor specific systems for those customers, being able to work with he or she and say, okay, we've garnered all the information from you for that particular job site. We mentioned, as I showed in the images on the webinar there, we mentioned about the old adhesive residues, water-based adhesive residues no less. Uzin has an answer for that. We have our polyurethane primer with 414. We're able to encapsulate, to cover so many of those water-based residues, those stains, those non-three-dimensional patterns on the floor, and have a product that can dry in superior time. Far too often in our industry, this side of the Atlantic, and I say from my own side, more often than not, the call to duty for the flooring installer was, sadly, we get pushed right to the end of the schedule. Therefore, the time frame, the window of opportunity in which we've now got to put a final finished substrate solution and floor covering over the top of, that window of time has become so condensed to a point of, it is, sadly, it's life, it's unfair. We have to provide safe, fast systems, solutions to the flooring installer, to the business owner, to the end user, with confidence, knowing that those materials are going to work each time, every time. Uzin has the offerings for just those solutions. All those varieties of solutions. High moisture vapor in the slab, adhesive residues, cracked or fractured substrates. Having the solutions in particular is generally quite a surprise from so many customers, in that they see we are able to offer the complete package as system solution, and that the technology that we have can answer the call for that final 11th hour of being able to jump in and qualify a job site and physically get to work on the job site with the customers. That's paramount to us, Kelly. That we do as we say, we answer to the promises that we make, and ultimately that we provide the materials, the best materials for the flooring professional.
Excellent, Jim. Thank you. You explained that so well. We got another question that came in, and this one was from Amy, and she says, "Hi, Jim. On your SDS, are silicate levels listed? You know, OSHA and all."
Yes, they are. Thank you, Amy. They are on the safety data sheet information details there as well. And in fact, Amy, I thank you very much for that question, because it does work with what I'm going to call out next, and that is, throughout the presentation, guys, you've actually seen we've talked about self-leveling technology, self and leveling, two words that often carry very, very mixed interpretations. Uzin offers true self-levelers throughout our range, in particular those with self-leveling technology. The course in particular recent days, weeks, months about the mechanical preparation of subfloors, about the manipulation and the mechanical preparation of, let's say, hand prep products, self-levelers thereafter. What we are looking to offer in particular here, which we have for many, many years with Uzin technology, is the fact that you can now apply Uzin self-levelers at a true eighth in place of hand prep products. The surface that remains thereafter is the cured, dried surface we start spreading adhesive over the top of. We no longer have to think along the lines of putting down a hand prep product where we've possibly got to now shave the floor some 2-3 times, patch, fill into place, look under the lights, put our hatch marks over the floor, fill in again, take a bit from here, add a bit there. By the time we've calculated all the time and labor factor from buying a small bag of hand preparation material, from the perceived perspective of the flooring installer or the purchaser, to say, well, yeah, but this small bag is significantly less in cost than the large bag. Quite honestly, we've all to draw away from that mindset and draw more into, well, what is the cost back per square foot in application of materials? What does this actually mean when I work back through and I reverse engineer on the math? When you take out the factor for Uzin self-levelers with the Level Plus technology, not having to necessarily manipulate the floor and create any sort of debris or dust into the atmosphere there, versus having to run over the top with a disc, with a rotary machine over the top of say a hand prep material. Again, we're looking to draw down and certainly reduce the need or the cause for concern for mechanically manipulating the surface of an Uzin self-leveler. It really is virtually cover-ready technology, guys.
Great, thanks, Jim. Okay, we're going to wrap up our session in just a few moments, but if you have additional questions, go ahead and put them in. Jim, is there anything else you'd like to add before we close our session?
I think in particular, Kelly, yes, for all folks on the call today, and for those certainly that will review this webinar after close of session today, I really want to say thank you. Thank you on behalf of Uzin, on behalf of the brand Uzin, on behalf of U-Floor Systems, to all folks amongst you on the call today for choosing to give us the opportunity and actually use our materials out there. I feel that far too often in our industry, thanks back from a manufacturer is something that is overlooked. So I really want to reach out and say thank you to those of you that have given us the opportunity to use Uzin before now. And really I invite those of you on the call today, certainly from seeing the review of the webinar there, it's a very brief synopsis, guys, within an hour, to try and describe everything, to try and explain very intricate, often high engineered technology in a series of some 15-20 slides is often a little bit tricky. But to those of you that have not tried Uzin materials, we welcome the opportunity to be able to work with you, to partner with you, and truly show you that with Uzin, your floor is our promise. So thank you.
Okay, Jim, with that, we would like to thank Uzin for sponsoring today's webinar, and especially thank you, Jim Muggleton, for presenting it. If you'd like more information about the Level Plus effect by Uzin, you can visit their website at uzin.us or contact Jim directly. And again, his contact information is contained right here in our presentation slides. And we will send you a copy of the presentation slides along with a link to the recording once it's available. And just a reminder that this recording will also be housed on the FCIC website, which you can access at any time, and our YouTube channel. And for our certified installation, go ahead, Jim.
I'm sorry, Kelly. If I've just got one last item, it'd be to mention to Joe, who reached out on the question previously, if I could just remind if you wouldn't mind, Kelly, just emailing me Joe's number or email direct in a moment or two's time. Joe, I promise I will reach out to you and we'll get that app in your hands in double quick time, sir.
Absolutely. We'll take care of that as soon as we get done here, Jim. No problem. Okay. And then for our certified installation managers, this and all FCISA webinars can be credited toward your continuing education requirements for your SIM renewal, as I mentioned earlier. So go ahead and consult your SIM handbook or the SIM webpage on the FCISA website for renewal details. And you can always contact me, Kelly@fcica.com. And then again, if you're watching this recording, you can go ahead and contact me and let me know that you completed it. Just a reminder, if you have questions, if you didn't get a chance to ask your question, go ahead and contact Jim, and he will get right back with you with answers. If you're interested in sponsoring an FCICA product promotional educational webinar, you can contact me by email. Again, Kelly@fcica.com, and that's all we have for today. Thank you, Jim, for joining us. Thanks, everyone else, for joining us, and we hope you have a great day.
Thank you, Kelly. Thank you to all listeners. Thank you.